तव कथामृतम् तप्तजीवनम् कविभिरीरितम् कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततम् भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. So Sri Ramakrishna's conversation with the devotees, as we find he's continuing with his conversation with Mr. Chaudhary, who came to meet the master. So Sri Ramakrishna, when he's continuing to converse with Mr. Chaudhary, that he asked him that how can one see God? And in the last class we were describing the master's words. We were trying to understand the master's words, that he's told that not with these eyes. God gives one divine eyes, and only then can one behold him. God gave Arjuna divine eyes so that he might see his universal form. So that's the idea of the Paroksha Anubhuti and the Aparoksha Anubhuti. That all our perceptions at present is with the help of the mind and the senses. So there is a realization of our real nature. We can realize when we go beyond our mind and the senses, and that's called aparoksha anubhuti. And that's the idea which Sri Ramakrishna is indicating as God gives one divine eyes. One cannot see the divine with these eyes. Means it is something beyond the perceptual knowledge. So that's the idea which Sri Ramakrishna is trying to indicate. And then he says a very interesting thing. Then that when one has the divine eyes, that one sees his universal form. So with the aparoksha anubhuti, what happens when you go beyond your mind and senses, you become identified with that non-dual consciousness. And from that, when you come back, this vyuthana, coming back again to this world of sensory perception, you again see the entire world. But your perspective has changed. The world is no more just there outside as a tangible universe. It becomes the projection of the divine. It is the same non-dual consciousness which is appearing as the universe. And that's the idea of the universal form. It's not only the idea of the universal form is not only limited to the idea of the Vishwarup Darshan in Bhagavad Gita in the 11th chapter. So the idea of the universal form actually indicates that any divine aspirant, when they go to that state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, from there, when he comes back, he sees the entire universe as the manifestation of the divine. And that's what is being indicated as the universal form of the divine, which we were trying to understand in the last class. We were discussing on this point. So now Sri Ramakrishna continues with his discussion with Mr. Chaudhary. What he's saying, God cannot remain unmoved if you have raga bhakti, that is love of God with passionate attachment to him. Do you know how fond God is of his devotees' love? It is like the cow's fondness for fodder mixed with oil cake. The cow gobbles it down greedily. Raga bhakti is pure love of God, a love that seeks God alone and not any worldly end. Prahlada had it. Suppose you go to a wealthy man every day, but you seek no favor of him. You simply love to see him. If he wants to show you favor, you say, "No, sir, I don't need anything. I came just to see you." Such is love of God for its own sake, You simply love God and don't want anything from Him in return. So that's the thing Sri Ramakrishna is indicating is the thing even desired by God, that God loves this type of raga bhakti, that unwavering devotion. There is no mercenary, the sense of mercenary dealings, that I love you so that in return you give me something. As Swami Vivekananda used to say very nicely, that if God is the means, world is the end, then know it to be sheer materialism. That I don't want God. I want all the worldly pleasures, the worldly achievements. And for that, God is the means. I pray to Him so that He may give all those worldly things to me. So that's actually a type of a give and take, where I don't want God. This world is the thing which I want. God is just the means. So that's also something which is okay. Why? At least such a person has developed the idea that ultimately God is the all-powerful being who has the power to deliver whatever I ask for. So the belief in God, the belief in the something which is supernatural, beyond this nature, that's supernatural, beyond this so-called phenomenal existence, that faith has come. So that way it is okay. As in Bhagavad Gita we find Sri Krishna is saying that there are 4 types of devotees. So what are they? Artha, Jigyashu, Artharthi and Jnani. Artha, that when one is in danger, in distress, that's the time when they call God. That's Artha. Artharthi, that when I have certain desire, some artha, for that I call on God. Jigyashu, when I am curious about the divine dimension, the spiritual dimension of my existence, for that my inquisitiveness, for that my longing has started. I am yet to attain that pure love of God, but I want to know about Him. So that's the Jigyasu. And what is the Arthar? And last is Jnani. That one who has developed that he knows that it is the divine who is projecting himself as the universe, and he knows that he is just the instrument in the hand of the divine, and always remembers the divine in executing his activities without any selfish motives, is non-attached work, and resigns himself to the divine, knowing Him to be the be-all and end-all of his existence. So that's the Jnani. So that's for whom God is the means, God is the end. I want nothing of this world. God is the means. I hold on to God to get God only, nothing else. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. So that's the thing God wants most. So we sometimes say that why this creation after all? If God alone is sufficient, He has no need. Whenever we are creating, it speaks of need. When I am in want of something, then only I create. So if God is beyond all want, why He has created the universe? So in Bhakti Shastra, they say a very interesting thing, that God actually has no need. The entire creation is just His Leela, is a sport. Just as a small child, they give the example of a small child. A small child is full of life, bubbling with life, full of happiness. And that happiness, that bliss finds expression as so many activities the child is doing. If you give him some synthetic clay or some clay, it will go on making some models and again breaking it. Again he will make something, again he will break it. So there is no purpose in making and unmaking. It is just the spontaneous expression of his joy. So that's what the creation is. It's Leela Kaivalyam, they say. That it is a spontaneous expression of his joy. And then the question, from where the question of bhakti comes. Yes, the joy finds highest expression through love. That God is alone. but to experience his own bliss. He wants to become many so that he can relate with love with others. It is he who has become many, but to relate through love with others, to enjoy his own bliss, he has created us as if. And then the interesting question comes, if that is so, then we are all bound to love the divine. We are never supposed to forget him, because God has created us so that we may love him. Then why do we forget him? So again, there's a nice way of saying it, that if we were so designed, we were so made that we always love God, then actually love can never be experienced. Because it is almost like loving an artificial intelligence. You have created an artificial intelligence which is programmed to love you, and you can never love it. When love materializes, love only materializes when I love someone, and that person whom I love, he has the choice. He or she may love me or may not love me. And in spite of the choice, when he or he reciprocates that love, then I experience the bliss of that love. Otherwise, if I knew the other person is bound to love me, has been programmed to love me, I would have known it is just an artificial intelligence. It has no, as such, choice of its own. So God, to experience his own bliss through that love, he was one, he created many, and that many he has given that choice. You may love, you may commune with me or may not. You may forget me. But at the same time, he has created the world in such a way that if you forget God and try to get involved with the world, thinking that I will get all my happiness there, but God has made the world perfectly imperfect. You can never get. At perfectly imperfect, he has made it. So at last we all have to turn around, and God is waiting for that. And that's the thing, that when we turn around and when we find that there is no other way than to go to the source, the divine source, God is as if waiting for that. And then he comes to experience the joy of communion, from that communion of that love, the bliss that ensues from it. Because he is all blissful. To experience that bliss, he has made this as if this play. This idea that God cannot remain unmoved if you have raga bhakti. That's the idea, that he has created us so that at last we relate to him through that love. The purpose of creation is as if that. So that's the story we always relate to. This is the story of the prodigal child. Again and again in the Bible, there's wonderful stories there. That a rich man had 2 sons. The elder son was devoted to his father. The younger son wanted to be free. He asked his father for his inheritance. The father, at last finding the child to be so much insisting, at last he gave him the share of his property, with which he left his father. He started living independently. But he was not a very responsible person. He started wasting the wealth. And in no time he became a pauper. And he didn't knew how to sustain himself. And now the thought of his father again came. But he was full of fear, apprehension, that most probably my father won't accept me because I have disobeyed him. Not only that, I have disobeyed him, I have wasted his wealth. He must be angry with me. But as there is no other way, so still with fear, he starts going back to his father. And from a distance, the father sees the son coming back. And it is the father who runs. Seeing the son coming back, he runs, goes and embraces the son, brings him back home, and he just gives a huge feast to the entire village to celebrate the son's homecoming. So this is the story of the prodigal child in the Bible. So it's a nice story which indicates this idea that God cannot remain unmoved if you have raga bhakti. When after your pursuit for the worldly pleasure, at last you have find that you have become a pauper. This world, advertise a lot, can give you nothing. And at last you realize that, and then you turn around, finding that no other means to support yourself. God is waiting for that. That when you turn around and you are ready to accept Him, then He comes running. So that's the idea which Sri Ramakrishna is indicating through these words, that God cannot remain unmoved if you have raga bhakti. That I don't want anything but God. For that only God is waiting. So if you see the image of Gopala, the baby Krishna, generally we go to God with extended hands. And if you see the image of baby Gopala, that why Gopala is worshipped? Because here God has become some helpless small child. He has as if nothing to give me. He is asking from me. His hands are extended. What's the idea? He is eternally waiting for us. So that He is just waiting for us. It is He who has spread His hand. That when we turn around and relate to Him through love. So for that He is eternally waiting. It is not we, it is He who is waiting. And that's the idea of the Raga Bhakti. That God cannot remain unmoved if you have Raga Bhakti. That is love of God with passionate attachment to Him. Do you know how fond God is of His devotees' love? And then He gives an example. That cow, of course, likes the fodder. But when you mix it with the oil cake, it will simply gobble it. It will greedily. So it is something that has spiced up his food. That oil cake has spiced up its food. So that spicing up the food is just like that Raga Bhakti. You have developed a tremendous fervor and devotion for the God, for God's sake alone. So these are the ideas which are very subtle. Once we get hold of it, then we become entitled for the true spirituality. As we find that Swami Vivekananda is relating in one of his lectures in Karma Yoga, that when the Pandavas were forsaken, they were banished, they were in the forest. That's the time Draupadi was complaining one day to Yudhishthira that you are such a devoted person, you always pray to God. But what has God given you? You have been deprived, you have been constantly, you will find in your life, you have been betrayed by your own cousins, you have been deprived by them. What has God done for you? And Yudhishthira was just in the foothills of the Himalayas. He was in the forest, in the foothills of the Himalayas, where the Himalayas was visible. So he never gave any answer directly. He just said to Draupadi, do you see the Himalayas? The snow-capped peaks, the tires of peaks? Well, yeah. Well, how beautiful it looks, how grand it is. Seeing it as if you fall in love with it. You get totally awestruck by this beauty of the Himalayas, the mighty mountains, the snow-peaked peaks of the Himalayas. Just seeing it, you become totally awestruck, full of as if wonder, love for it. Now, what does the Himalaya give you? Has it given you anything? No. Just seeing it is falling in love with it, isn't it? So know the love of God is something like that. He is the most lovable, the most adorable being. That I want nothing in return. Just he is a person who is just to be loved. So that's why I love the divine. So that was the idea which Yudhishthira was trying to explain to Draupadi. That it is not for getting something. That you are asking what God has given you. I don't love because I want something. I love God for God's sake alone. Just the way the Himalaya is loved because it is adorable. It is something lovable. It has nothing to give in return to me. Just seeing it is falling in love with it. So that's the idea which Sri Ramakrishna is speaking of here. And God is eternally waiting for that. That is the thing which He loves most. What's the thing? There's this Raga Bhakti. That devotion, full, that's love for God, which is full of devotion. And it needs nothing in return. There is no sense of mercenary in this interaction. I am not a mercenary. in my love of God. I want nothing in return. And that's the idea which Sri Ramakrishna is indicating to Mr. Chaudhary in his conversation. And saying this, the Master sang, "Though I never loath to grant salvation, I hesitate indeed to grant pure love. Whoever wins pure love surpasses all. He is adored by men. He triumphs over the three worlds." So as we were indicating, if God gives pure love to all, He has not given pure love to all. Why? If God wants us that we love Him, but if He would have made us in such a way that we only love Him, the love couldn't be realized. It would be just like loving an artificial intelligence which has been programmed to love me. Can you ever love a person who has no choice? You can never. The love can be experienced only when I love a person, and in return, though he has a choice to love me or may not, but still he loves me. That option speaks of that there's someone who is as if a living entity. It's not something like an artificial intelligence. And then only the love is experienced. If I knew that the other entity is bound to love me, it is just like an artificial intelligence. So it's programmed. You can never experience the love. So that's the idea, that God that doesn't give pure love to all, because then we will all be like an artificial intelligence. So, and one cannot love an artificial intelligence. So that's why God is saying that if you ask mukti, I am ready to give. Liberation. But pure love, that I cannot grant for all, one in all. I cannot. But if I do that, the purpose of the creation is not in any way served. Because after all, through the creation, God wants to experience the bliss of joy. And many may say, then God is a sadist person. To experience joy, that so that at last through suffering, if we come back to Him, He is making us suffer. Someone told Ramakrishna the same thing, that you say everything He is Leela, and here we are suffering. And Sri Ramakrishna's reply immediately was wonderful. He told, where are you? It is all He. He has become the many to experience the joy of the joy that comes from the union, from the bliss which comes from the union. To experience that, He has become many and has given the sense of you and me. Otherwise, you cannot experience, the love is not nurtured, you cannot experience the bliss. So the question of sadist comes only when I make others suffer. But here there is no other. It is a God Himself who has become many. So that's the idea. So then that's why it is being indicated that bhakti is something which is not something easily attainable. God doesn't give it to all. I am never loath to grant service, and I can easily give that. I hesitate indeed to grant pure love. Whoever wins pure love surpasses all. He is adored by man. He triumphs over the three worlds. He continued, the gist of the whole thing is that one must develop passionate yearning for God and practice discrimination and renunciation. So these two things, this Vishay Virag, in this Bengali it is been told by Sri Ramakrishna, that in translations sometimes that the basic words, the beauty of those basic words is we miss in the translation. The real words in Bengali is Vishay Virag, Ishware Anurag. So these two things should go hand in hand. Vishay Virag, this renunciation, the sense of renunciation from the worldly attachments. That alone is not spirituality. Even if a person who is depressed, suffering from intense depression, you find he has interest in nothing. But can I call him a devotee? No. So the Vishay Virag has to be associated with this Ishware Anurag, the love for the divine. And this too is the sanam bonam of the entire spiritual practice, of the spiritual journey. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. The gist of the whole thing is that one must develop passionate yearning for God. That's the Ishware Anurag. And practice discrimination and renunciation. There's the Vishay Virag. So Guru and Ishta. So then now Mr. Chaudhary is asking, sir, Is it not possible to have the vision of God without the help of a guru? So that's the something which is a pertinent question we find many are asking. That nowadays so much literature is available. In internet, so much of material is available. Just by reading them, can I not practice spirituality independently? What's the need for guru? So that's the thing I find that Mr. Chaudhary is asking. Is it not possible to have the vision of God without the help of a guru? The master replies, Satchidananda himself is the guru. At the end of the Sarvasadhana, just when the vision of the Ishta is about to take place, the guru appears before the aspirant and says to him, Behold, there is your Ishta. Saying this, the guru merges in the Ishta. He who is the guru is also the Ishta. The guru is the thread that leads to God. So here we find he is speaking of a particular aspect of the Tantra sadhana, where the aspirant sits on a dead body for his meditation. That is called Sarvasadhana. Why this type of apparently a very gruesome practice? The sitting on a dead body for your meditation. The idea is that the dead body always gives us the awareness of the transience, the sense of transiency. This world is transient. Nothing is permanent here. Everything is going to pass away, is going to die. So to have this idea very deeply ingrained in our mind, so they make the dead body as the asana, as the seat on which they do their meditation. So to develop a tremendous dispassion for this transient world. It is not permanent. We all suffer because we are trying to grab something which is flowing. Something which is flowing, if you try to grab, you cannot hold it. At last, you have to relinquish it, and that will give you tremendous pain. So, Sarvasadhana speaks of that you are constantly aware of this fact. Now, very interesting. Do really people even now do this type of sadhana? I went to, long back as a brahmachari, I still remember, I went to Tarapit. It's one of a very famous, one of the very prominent Shakti Pitha, where in West Bengal it is there. It's near Shantiniketan, the Rabindranath Tagore's university. It's very near that, Tarapit. So there we stayed overnight. I went with a few other brother monks, and we were curious because we have heard that these sadhakas do the Sarvasadhana there. They sit on the dead body in the dead of night in the cremation ground to do spiritual practices. So we went there in the dead of night, because as we were there overnight, at night we all together went to that cremation ground to see whether really that what we have heard that they are doing. But we found no one. There were small kutiyas, the hermitages were there, and there were monks who were meditating, but we found no one sitting on this shava, the dead body, for their meditation. So at last, out of curiosity, we asked that we have heard so much that here in Tarapit, here in the cremation ground of Tarapit, you practice Shava Sadhana, but we see no one is doing that. Then is it a mere something which is like a rumor which has spread? No. Shava Sadhana, they do practice. Many practice. There may be someone who do practice, but it is not very common. But when we are practicing, we still feel we are doing, though we are not sitting on the dead body, we are sitting on the ground. But still we have the feeling that we are doing Sarvasadhana. And then he told a very interesting thing. What he told? This ground is nothing but the decomposed living material. The soil is nothing but the decomposed living material of the living beings who have died for thousands of years. So many creatures have died. They have decomposed, and that has become the soil. So if you are aware of this fact, you know that you are sitting on the Shava. This ground is anywhere you just travel in the world, wherever this you see the soil, it is nothing but the decomposition of the living material. Maybe it's plant, maybe it's animal, whatever it may be. In the long run, it has become the soil. So this soil is nothing, this earth is nothing but the cremation ground, is the burial ground of this past. That's what is there. So if you're aware of this fact, you're doing Shava Sadhana when you're even sitting on the ground. So the idea is to develop the renunciation. So now, here what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating, that this particular type of tantric practice, they sit for meditation on the Shava and meditate, and as a fructification of their meditation, what they find, as if Guru becomes something. Guru is not something, this ordinary human being of flesh and bones. He appears as an illumined being who as if merges with the chosen deity, Ishta, and thereby taking you to that vision of your chosen deity, where Guru has guided you and has at last merged with the Ishta. What's the idea actually spoken of? That actually Guru should never be thought of as an ordinary human being. That he is a living embodiment of one's Ishta. That's the idea of merging with the Ishta. The Guru is not an ordinary human being, the one from whom you got the spiritual initiation. Yes, he is a man of flesh and bone, but it is through him the divine power is getting channelized. So you should never look on him as an ordinary human being of flesh and bones. Then your love for the Guru is just like any ordinary human love. You have to see him as the divine. He is the Ishta who has taken the form of your Guru. He is the spiritual entity. So that's the idea of merging of the Ishta, of the Guru with the Ishta. You will find in Narada Bhakti Sutra, this idea has been wonderfully explained, that Narada is defining bhakti. What he is saying? That Narada tu tat akhila acharata tat vishmarane parama vyakulata iti. That what is the supreme devotion, bhakti? Tat akhila acharata. That offering all acts to God, tat vismarane parama vyakulata iti. That whatever you do, you remember God, and everything is as if an act of worship. I offer everything to the divine, and if I forget the divine, even for a fraction of a second, I feel terrible pain. Just the way I cannot live without air, I cannot live without breathing. Similarly, I cannot live without the thought of God. A tremendous anguish develops. So that type of love. So, but after saying that, he is giving an example. Yatha, that in the Narada Bhakti Sutra is there. The next sutra is Yatha Vraja Gopikanam. Just like the gopis of Vrindavan, of Vraja. So they had that intense love. After saying that, the next line is very important, that Guru has to be thought of as one with the Ishta. That idea we get in the next sutra. What it is saying? Tatrapi na Mahatma Jnana Vismriti Apavada. The gopis had tremendous love for Krishna, but they never took him to be an ordinary human being. They always, in their mind, the idea that it is God who has taken this form, it was there. Though they always try to feed him, think him as a little boy, but in the corner of the mind, always the idea that it is the divine who has been incarnated in this form, this was there. If that was not there, the next sutra speaks, Tat Vihinam Jaranam Eva. Then it would have become, Jaranam means ordinary human love, passionate love. Ordinary human passionate love. It would have become just like that. The gopis were aware of the divine dimension of Sri Krishna's incarnation. So that's always where they're in the mind. Then only that love becomes something spiritual. There's a nice incident in the life of Miss Josephine MacLeod. She was a disciple of Swami Vivekananda, though she never used to consider herself a disciple of Swami Vivekananda. You know that in our scriptures they speak that you can relate to God in various bhavas. Like you can relate to God as your master and you're a servant. That is this dasya bhava. Or it may be vatsalya. You can think of God as small child, you are his parent. Similarly, you can think of God as your friend, sakha. So there are in so many ways I can relate to the divine. Now Josephine MacLeod had the idea of Swami Vivekananda. He used to relate to Swami Vivekananda as a friend. So that's why when she visited Belur Math, and she asked the brahmachari who is to look after at that time Swami Vivekananda has already passed away. The bedroom where Swamiji is to stay is still maintained the same way as it was on the last day of Swamiji's life. If you go there, you feel as if Swamiji is living there. That way they have maintained. Now Josephine MacLeod, when he came, that the door was locked. So he ordered the brahmachari, open the lock. So it was not the time for this to open the room. Just like the shrine is open only for the fixed hours, that room also remains open for the fixed hours. So the brahmachari first told that it's not the time, you have to wait for a little more time. And MacLeod immediately shouted at him almost. When Swamiji was leaving, there was no restriction for me. Whenever I wanted, I used to meet Swamiji. And now you say I cannot meet him, it is not the time, open. So they knew MacLeod, and they knew that what is that fervor of his devotion. The brahmachari was really scared by getting that scolding and immediately opened. And then she was about to enter that room, and now again the brahmachari saw that she was wearing the shoes and she didn't open the shoes. Again he told her, "Oh madam, you are supposed to open the shoes." Again that brahmachari got a good scolding. And when Swamiji was alive, I never opened my shoes in front of him, and now you are saying I have to open my shoes? So that type of devotion was there. And she used to say a wonderful thing. I am always in search of a great person. I adore a great person. I love a great person. I still love Swamiji because I have never got someone who is greater than him. That's why I still love him. If I get, I will love that person. So that's the type of attitude she had. Now she, very interesting lady. She one day went to Holy Mother. And she was complaining that I cannot meditate. And Mother asked them, why? Why can you meditate? We have been blessed by Swamiji and you say you cannot meditate? And then Josephine MacLeod told, whenever I sit for meditation, the thought of Swami Vivekananda comes to my mind and I cannot meditate. And immediately Mother's reply was wonderful. She told, you are so lucky, you are so blessed that the people trying to meditate on that form, they find their mind is getting distracted. And your mind is always in communion with that form of Swamiji. You are so blessed. And then the next line was important. But you should never forget that he is one of the Saptarshis. He is a divine being. He is not a man of flesh and bone. That you should never forget. So that your mind is always with Swamiji is very good. But always remember his divine origin. So that's the idea of merging of the Guru in the Ishta. If you think of your Guru as something divine, he is not a man of flesh and bone, then only that love becomes spiritual. What makes the difference between spiritual love and ordinary love? Any ordinary worldly love, I know the person is a limited being. He has been born at a certain point of time, he is going to die at a certain point of time. He is just a being like any ordinary being. And to love such a being means transience. That love is bound to end. If Guru has died, his physical body is no more there, I feel tremendous pang because he is no more there. But the idea here is no, he is still there. This physical body has fallen off. As the spiritual essence is still there, and it is he who through his sadhana has realized as the Ishta, as the core of his being. And now he becomes the channel for me. If I relate to the Guru as the spiritual being, as a divine being, then I don't relate only to the physical existence, that the one who is being born and who is going to die. I relate to the spiritual dimension of his existence, with which I come in communion with the Ishta. So that's the idea. The idea is to transcend the idea of limitation. Either the spiritual idea is that to be in eternal communion with the divine. This idea of this limited existence falls off. So when you are always identifying your Guru with the Ishta, then only the efficacy of this Guru's power can really work on you. So here Sri Ramakrishna, when he starts his discussion, he says Satchidananda is the only Guru. That doesn't mean that we don't need a Guru in the human form. If you just go through the entire these words, now you will find. So that's why we say the Sri Ramakrishna's words, you have to reflect. Otherwise, sometimes you will find it can be confusing. That when we say, oh, Sri Ramakrishna is as if saying that Guru is not required, that God alone is your Guru. He is the one who can directly help you. So that's the first idea we get. But if you read the entire thing, you will find he's actually saying that yes, God alone is the Guru. The Guru is required. In the human form, you require it. But know it for certain, he is God and God alone. As we always chant, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Reva Maheshwara. So this idea, he is the God himself. So he is the God. Never take him to be a human being. He, the Satchidananda alone is the Guru. Now let us read the entire sentence, and then you will find that what actually he is actually indicating. That God Satchidananda himself is the Guru. At the end of Savasadhana, just when the vision of the Ishta is about to take place, the Guru appears before the aspirant and says to him, behold, there is your Ishta. Saying this, the Guru merges in the Ishta, showing that he is actually that spiritual entity. He is not just a man of flesh and bones. He is a spiritual dimension of existence with which I have to relate. Then only I can progress spiritually. Then only I can relate to the Ishta, my chosen ideal, as the one who is Trikal Avadita Satya, the truth which is always there, Trikal Avadita, whose existence is not interrupted by any phase of time, past, present or future. It was, he is, he will be. I am in eternal communion with that. So unless I relate to the spiritual dimension of my Guru, it will just become an ordinary love. It is not going to help me spiritually. So that's the idea which we find Sri Ramakrishna is trying to indicate when he was asked the question, sir, is it not possible to have vision of God without the help of Guru? So that's the answer. Yes, I need the help of Guru, but the way we relate to the Guru is also very important. He is not just an ordinary human being. He is the divine manifesting. It's the divine who is manifesting in the human form as your Guru. So always know your Guru to be God and God alone. And then only the Guru Karana, the having a Guru, can have some efficacy in your spiritual journey. So, woman, and then Sri Ramakrishna is continuing with his discussion. Women perform a ritualistic worship known as Ananta Vrata, the object of worship being the infinite. But actually the deity worshipped is Vishnu. In him are the infinite forms of God. So this is the idea in Hinduism, that when people say that we are idol worshippers, no one worships idol. When I am worshipping a form of the divine, does the person think he is just worshipping that clod of clay? No. It is just a suggestion behind which the idea is God is infinite. Even the word Vishnu means all pervading. That form is something which becomes the referral point to visualize something which is beyond all form, which is formless. In Sanskrit they use two words, in Yoga Shastra it is there, that there are two types of perceptions. One is perceptual knowledge and another is conceptual knowledge. in Vyasa Bhashya, very nicely it has been described. What's that? That when I'm seeing a flower, red flower, whether I call it red or blue, whatever it may be, or I don't have any word to express it, I see it, the knowledge which I get is in no way dependent on the word. If the red color I say blue, the experience I am getting is the same. The word has no relevance in the jnana, the experience which I am having, because it is something the perception. The perception is same for all. So whatever words I may use. So that's perceptual knowledge, for which language is not necessary, for which words are not necessary. But whenever we are speaking of God, a language becomes important. Why? Because that is a type of conceptual knowledge. And then he gives a very nice example. Suppose an elderly person is walking down the road with a small boy, small child, the father is holding the hand of the child and they are walking. The elderly man, I won't say father, the elderly man is holding the hand of the child and is walking. Unless someone says the relationship between these two, that he is the father and he is the son, just by seeing, can we ever get that idea, the knowledge that he is the father, he is the son? Impossible. Anyone, that elderly person can be anyone, maybe some other relative, maybe uncle. But unless someone says he is the father, they are related with that, I can never know just by seeing that he is the father and he is the son. So here the idea of conceptual, whenever the conceptual knowledge is there, language becomes very important. Unless that word is told, I can never know what actually it is. So similarly, the God who is all pervading, all these words we use, all pervading, it is he who has been projected as the universe. Unless we use some word, because it's a concept, it's a conceptual knowledge, that unless we express through word, we can never understand what God is. So those who say we don't believe in form, or though in image, but the word God itself is an image. It's a type of image. It's a type of symbol. The word, any word you are using, it's a symbol. With what's the idea? When you're speaking of God, then all the ideas gets encoded in that word. Like he is the one who is the creator, the preserver, the destroyer. He alone is. He is the creator. Everything is the created. All those ideas are encapsulated, encoded in the word God. Without that word, I can never have all those ideas. So in Hinduism, what they do, along with the word, they have also taken a form, to relate to all those ideas. You may say, why the form was required? Why not only the word? This word and form has a big science behind it. Now you find whenever I'm thinking, whenever any thought, suppose someone comes to the mother, the child has went to the school, and now the mother comes and says something about the child. Oh, your son, how is he doing? The moment the person speaks of the son, in the mother's mind, what will happen? Two things will happen. With that word, immediately a visualization will happen. You will find that constantly we are doing this. That whenever any thought has two components, nama, rupa. Whenever I am thinking, you will find some sort of visualization is going in your mind and some language is going on in your mind. You are speaking something, though it is not words which are expressed, but in your mind you will find what is doing. You are constantly speaking silently, and in your mind some visualization is going on. So each and every thought has two components. Nama, that speaks of the language, rupa, the form. Now God is something infinite. And in all the religions we have given some name. Whether it is God, Allah, whatever it is, we have given a name. But it actually represents all those ideas which is encoded in that name. And with that name, when I am trying to relate to God, what happens? Very interesting thing happens. That our thought in general has two components, Nama, Rupa. But here, while thinking of God, I am taking care only of Nama, there is no Rupa. And as a result, the meditation cannot be very effective. It will have, what will happen? You will find it happens sometimes that when I am mechanically relating, narrating some name or repeating some name, mind is visualizing so many things, because the thought has two components, nama rupa. I'm just repeating the name, but the visualization aspect is free. It can go on thinking thousands of things. So the meditation doesn't become effective. Now, as we were saying, that to represent that infinite, that concept of that infinity, I need a name. In Hinduism, they have added along with that the idea of form. So that now, both the aspects of your thought you are taking care of. With that, now when you meditate, the meditation can be very, very focused. So it's a way, it's not the ultimate goal. Ultimately, the idea is that God is beyond form. So this idea of the Vishnu is all pervading. For that I have taken a form. With this form, at last I can go to that infinite dimension of the divine existence. How it happens? As we told, that all the concentration, when your mind is fully focused, you have used both the name and the form to focus your mind in one thought. And when you have become very much skilled in that, all the distractions has fallen off. Very interesting that mind enters into a state of one thought, ekagrata, where the other thoughts have fallen off. The more the focus, the more the distraction falls off. You'll find it happens when I'm watching a TV, a game in a TV. I'm so focused, when someone calls me, I don't hear. Why? As my mind is focused on the game, the sound has entered my ear, but the mind doesn't register it. The more it is focused, the other thing starts falling off. So when with the nama and the rupa your mind is extremely focused, the other thing starts falling off. That's why in Hinduism they say our religion is not a belief, it's a realization. When it is so focused, then what happens? The other thing starts falling off. The more the mind becomes focused, first the external thing starts falling off, and then all the bodily feelings also starts falling off. You'll find that a musician who is very passionate about his own music, or a painter who is very, very engrossed in his own painting, you'll find hours they spend. They forget that they are hungry, they forget they are thirsty. Why? The body cannot register. They are so much engaged in their activity that all the bodily feelings, which are the biological alarm system, this alarm is ringing. But the mind is not processing that, because it is so focused, it cannot process them anymore. It is totally engrossed in that thing. So that's how our meditation becomes very focused and other things starts falling off. The last thing to fall off is the ego. That I am this body-mind complex. This is the thing, this idea. It never falls off. From our birth to death, a part of our mind is always cling to that. But this type of meditation can at last make your mind so intense that your sense of ego, which is always holding to your mind, a small part of your mind, that also is taken away by your object of meditation. And then a wonderful thing happens. You enter into a state of samadhi. In Sanskrit, meditation leads to samadhi. What that samadhi means? When triputi bheda happens. Triputi bheda. That triputi means the triad collapses. What are the triad? That even when my mind is extremely focused, three things I am aware of. Dhyana, dhyata, dheya. Dhyata means the meditator. Dheya means the object of meditation. Dhyana is the process of meditation. So though all things have fallen off, as the ego is still there, I am aware that I am meditating. This is the object of meditation, and meditation is connecting this two. Now when meditation becomes that intense, where your ego has fallen off, they say this triad has collapsed, triputi bheda, then you become one with the object of meditation. And when that happens, a wonderful thing happens. The ego has fallen off, you become one with the object of meditation, whatever with the object of meditation, suddenly you feel you have the awareness of I am, but that has no locality. What's the idea? Swami Vivekananda gives that idea very wonderful, that an ordinary being is like a circle which has a center, but whose circumference is infinite. That with sitting here, with my mind I can travel anywhere. If someone says this is the last galaxy which has been till now visualized, my mind can think, oh, there must be something beyond that. No one can stop my mind. It can traverse anywhere. So that's why he's saying it's a circle which has as if no circumference. But it has a center. With my mind I can go anywhere, but can I jump out of myself? I can close all my perceptions, but I still know I am sitting somewhere. There's a locality. I am sitting somewhere that I have a locality. I cannot go beyond that. So when that Triputi Bheda happens, that amness loses the locality. So now you will understand. You also have become Vishnu, all pervading. That has lost locality. That amness has gone beyond the sense of locality. Everything has fallen off. This world of Nama Rupa has fallen off. So just see, with the Nama Rupa, you have went to a realization where you are beyond all Nama Rupa, and it is not something which speaks of annihilation, zero. You are still aware of that amness, which has no locality, which is beyond time, space, causation. From that, when you come back, naturally you feel that whatever I am seeing is actually nothing but the projection of that non-local consciousness. This is when I come back to my body, mind, senses, that non-local consciousness, when it finds expression again through the mind and the body, this world again pops up. This world is nothing but the manifestation of that. So this speaks of the realization. Unless you go to that realization, the one who has gone, for them it is a palpable reality. So now you will understand the word Vishnu, that what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. They are doing Ananta Vrata. Ananta Vrata speaks of that universal aspect of the divine, that God has become everything. But they are resorting to that the worship of Vishnu with a particular form. So that's how from form we go to the formless. So it's a way. So if you understand, you will find what a wonderful scientific way of this practice actually has been devised, where just to think that the image we are worshipping will be a great erroneous a mistake we will be doing. It is the image which is a framework. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, a very interesting thing, all the various forms and concepts of divinities are a hole in the wall of ego. Very interesting. See that we are as if forming that image, that suppose there is a wall and I start chiseling a particular form in that wall. Say I am a lover of Vishnu, what I am doing? I am chiseling the form of Vishnu in that wall. So as long as I have not created that hole, the form is like an imagination. It's still an imagination. But the moment a hole has been created, the ego for the time being has fallen off. You have created the hole. And as if you are peeping through it and you see infinite expanse. And as I have created the hole in the form of Krishna or in the form of Vishnu, I say Vishnu is infinite. The one who creates the hole in the form of Rama, he will say Rama is infinite. The one who has created that hole in the form of any other concept of divinity, they will see the same thing, that Jesus is infinite, Buddha is infinite. So it is a framework through which I am peeping through. Now Sri Ramakrishna, because he was a spiritual glutton, he was not satisfied with only one way of practice. When he, in the initial stages, when he went to the realization by worshipping Kali, after that, he was praying to the mother, that mother, show me that how others worship, and through that worship they go to that realization. And that way, in 12 years' time, he went through so many spiritual practices, and it was not a mere belief. Through all of them, he went to that realization to at last realize that it is just making so many holes in the wall of ego to peep into the same infinite dimension of spiritual dimension of our existence. And as a spiritual aspirant makes only one hole, so for him that alone becomes that framework for relating to that reality. But actually, it is actually the science behind it is we are all, whatever form we are doing the same thing. We are creating a whole, and through that whole we are relating to that infinite. So now you will understand this word very nicely. They perform ritualistic worship known as Ananta Vrata, the object of worship being the infinite. But actually the deity worship is Vishnu. In him are the infinite forms of God, all the forms of God. In Him it's there. So whatever form you take, at last it leads you to that all-pervasiveness. And that's the real meaning of the word Vishnu. Vishnu means all-pervading. So if you asked me which form you should meditate upon, see, you will see, now you can relate to that what we are discussing, the next words of Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna, you will find that it actually speaks of that only, that whatever form you should meditate upon, I should say fix your attention on that form which appeals to you most. So that its real meditation is through love. A mother never meditates upon the child that she may forget. That why do we meditate on God? Oh, I forget God, that's why I meditate. But do a mother ever meditate on the child that she may forget? No. What it speaks of, that when love is there, meditation becomes spontaneous. You need not have to willfully meditate. So the thing, that the form of deity which you like most, for which you have already developed love, the meditation will be spontaneous. So take that form. Start meditating on that, so that your meditation becomes more and more spontaneous. So that will speak of the quality of meditation. So fix your attention on that form which appeals you the most, but know for certain that all forms are forms of one God alone. So let's see, wonderful words. That's why again we have to repeat these words again and again. That Swami Vivekananda used to say, the words of Ramakrishna, which appear so simple, sometimes we think, what's there in it? He used to say that his words, behind his words is the realization which has even transcended the Vedas and Vedantas. In such a way, the Catholicity it speaks of. It's the future of our world religions, where there is no sort of narrowness, no sorts of bigotry. That whatever you like, through that you can go relate to that divinity, the infinite dimension of existence. These are all the ways, but at last it can lead to that goal. That all the differences we find in this world is in the doctrines and dogmas. That example which we give again and again. That unless you have realized, it's all belief, it's all faith, where all the clashes are bound to happen. What's that? That a man who have tasted mango, if he relates the taste of mango to a group of people who have never tasted mango, they will think, we have understood. Mango is sweet and it has a nice flavor. But what they will do, they will try to relate those words with their available fund of experience. Some will say mango is sweet like honey, it has the flavor of rose, because that's his available fund of experience. Someone will say, no, it is sweet like molasses, and it has the fragrance of jasmine. Just see, difference of opinion. All have heard the words, and they're trying to relate to the words with their available funds of experiences. They have not trying to realize the word by experiencing it. Now, if among all, so now all the differences happen, the fight starts. Now, among all those, if someone tests the mango, of all those who have not tasted the mango, but have developed so many varied opinions about the taste of mango, among them, if anyone gets the chance to taste the mango, what he will feel? That all these ideas which we have developed are erroneous, but the words which was told by a person who has tasted the mango is correct. He never told the wrong thing. But as we never went to the experience, we were just trying to relate to his words with faith. All these differences have started. So religion is realization. Then you get that Catholicity. And that's the thing Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. Any form you take, no form is greater, no form is smaller. The thing is, you have to have that intensity, that yearning, so that it takes you to the realization. Spirituality doesn't remain in just a mere belief. And then only you can really know what God is. So that's the words, fix your attention on that form which appeals to you most, but know for certain that all forms are the forms of one God alone. So in this strait, Sri Ramakrishna will continue his discussion. You will find the discussion is very interesting. So we will take the remaining portion of the discussion again in the next class. With this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskars.